Remember, don't allow your fantasies to make a conclusion about this person. When you first see the person, you're gonna start assuming certain things about their personality. And if they kind of fit what you want, like for example, if you're dating me and you like freaking I don't know Jimi Hendrix, right? And you're like, oh my god, I got my own modern day Jimi Hendrix, right? If you allow that fantasy to take hold, you're gonna stop seeing me, and you're gonna start falling in love with the fantasy. And that's gonna make you so emotional because you're seeing something that was from your fantasy become true, that your standards will lower because you want me so much. That's how that works, right? Since there's nobody watching you or judging your actions and how available you are, there's nobody telling you to slow the fuck down. Naturally you're gonna go off of your impulses. And when we fall in love, when we like people, we're more prone to impulsive decisions. So don't allow the fantasies. Shut those fantasies down. So when I meet someone and I like her, I'm like, okay, and I'm seeing a fantasy and how awesome she is and how potentially this relationship could be. I tell myself, lower your expectations. She is not who you think she is. Relax. This might not work out. This allows me to literally lower my emotional reaction to it. And this allows me to not be so easily won over by her. Rather than seeing her and seeing the fantasy, which the fantasy already won me over, I see her and I discard the fantasy and say, she is not who I see in my mind. Who is she? That's the type of mentality. And because of that, you keep that in your mind. You say to yourself, this person is not who I think it is. We just fall in love with your brain's reaction to who they appear to be. And we don't really end up falling in love with who they really are. And that tends to lower your value because you just seem gullible. People genuinely assume that if you fall in love this quickly with me, that means you fall in love with everyone else. If you're harder to impress, harder to win over, harder to fall in love, people will say, okay, this person is a challenge. This person is not easily won over, and as a result, I gotta try harder. I gotta be more romantic. I gotta do that special move I only do on people who I like. But too many people just want to fall on the arm of the first person that comes. And people, even though they accept what you're giving them, they're gonna say, did they do that with everyone else? They may not think of it, but emotionally, that's what they're gonna feel. So you have to have some restraint. If you're a guy, I swear to God, like I learned this. If you're a guy, it's much better if you're dating a girl, friend zone her. Don't be so quick to make a move, right? As long as you have confidence, as long as you show confidence, don't be so quick to make a move. Simply because what I notice is that if you restrain yourself and you're more friendly than trying to make a move, people generally say, okay, like why aren't they trying to make a move on me? So learning to prolong the dating process, right? As long as you're not broke, right? Because then if you prolong it, you may go in debt, right? But as long as you prolong the dating process, it fucks with people. It makes them want you more. You look more patient, you look more attractive, right? But when you try to speed it up, even though they may want you to speed it up, what they do is that they say, okay, this person, I won them over. I got this person. Be more difficult. Have some self-constraint. Me personally, I try not to kiss a girl on the first date. Like that was my goal. But now my goal is to get to know her, to sense how she is, her personality, if she's funny, if she's interesting. And I tend to not try to make a move. And partly is because maybe I'm getting older and your testosterone lowers as a result of that, which is actually a good thing, right? You're not controlled by your date, right? But essentially though, is that it gives the impression to women that you're not easily won over. And it's the same thing with everyone. You have to give that impression or else they just won't value what you give, even though what you give is good. The next thing is that you have to be willing to show negative emotions, right? When you're not easily won over, what will happen is that people are gonna sense that, like, it's like a boss that's hard to impress, right? You have more moments when you feel like you're losing them than winning them over. And the moments you feel like you're losing them are moments when you or the other person is fucking up, and they show their disappointment in their face. When you are trying to win someone over, you are afraid to show negative emotions because you don't want to risk losing them. But you have to be able to show those negative emotions when they fuck up and not hide it and not suppress it and not act like nothing happened, right? People who are not easily won over have more are more willing to show displeasurement, boredom, bored, being tired. They're more willing to yawn. Like there's more range of emotions that they show, and that will give them that impression that you're not easily won over. The next thing is that you don't allow uncomfortable emotions to dictate your actions. Even though you feel desperate, they're making you wait, even though you really want them, you don't allow that the emotion of desire to push you to seek validation, to suppress those emotions. Usually people seek validation to suppress emotions. And that's what tends to hurt them in the dating process, right? So you can't react to those uncomfortable feelings in dating with getting validation, because so what's gonna happen? Anytime you feel bad, you're gonna get their validation. You're just gonna suffocate them, and you're gonna show that you're like a puppy that wants to be adopted. Like you're like what the fuck? Like what? No, dude. Like what the hell? Act like you're adopted, man. Show some pride. Like you can't act. In fact, act like a cat that doesn't want to get adopted. A lot of the neediness usually comes because you're trying to run away from pain, and you're using them as a vessel to deal with your emotions. And it becomes a lifelong habit to use other people to suppress emotions. That's why you have to develop a meditation practice. A meditation practice will end this seeking behavior to feel better. And the only time you're gonna seek them is because you actually like them, not because you're using them as a vessel to release pent-up tension. Whenever you've become your own source of positive emotions, neediness goes away, and you become more, you're not easily won over, because usually a lot of people just become easily won over, not because they're ugly, but because they're sad, they're depressed, they're anxious, they're impatient, and those emotions are unbearable for them. So they use the other person's validation to suppress it. If you just learn to deal with those negative emotions, you're just gonna be harder to please, because you already please yourself. I have everything that I need from my own self. Like in my experience, when a woman does this, and a lot of guys, the process of me reacting to you not being easily won over makes me feel insecure. Like I said, people tend to fall in love with people who create some sense of insecurity. And nothing creates more insecurity than sensing that you're losing the person, or sensing that the person's energy has lowered. And what would happen is that my reaction to you, if I like you, the positive emotions that I feel it's almost like fuel or dead leaves that creates fire. Those emotions my reaction to your sudden coldness, my reaction to you being a little bit more difficult, my reaction will be like a fire of emotions, right? And when you finally show us, when you finally show them the happy face, or when you finally show them a face of that you're pleased, right? Because you sometimes show an expression of being displeased, an expression of boredom. When you finally show them the warm side, they end up falling in love with you harder, right? But the problem is that we tend to avoid creating this dynamic. You gotta understand that humans are wired for this. This is how things have been for millennia, for hundreds of thousands of years. Most human societies had a structure where people had a fake acting like they didn't want it as much. Not for your value, but because of the family. If the family has a prehistoric needy person, it's gonna ruin the whole family, right? So this is why. And when you're acting, and one of the things I want you to understand is that the playing hard to get always comes with respect. You gotta stop thinking that people are gonna react positively to your positive emotions. No. People react more positively to your negative emotions because they react with wanting your validation. Just have self-constraint, self-control. Don't let your fantasies tell you you finally found the one. Tell your fantasies to go to hell. No, don't go to hell, right? Tell your fantasies to calm down and tell yourself, what else do they have to offer? This might not work out. When you tell yourself that this person might not be the person, even though my mind is telling me, this might be the last time I see this person, or this might not go past a month. I am telling you this only for those people who their mind starts creating a freaking Disney fantasy. and you start to believe that fantasy, and you start to act as though you're in that fantasy and start acting like Snow White looking at your Prince Charming. Like, no, motherfucker, this is not Disney. This is Earth. You get what I'm saying? So I learned this in my life, and what I noticed is that when women do this to me, like when they're when they're harder to get, when they're not easily won over, there's a sense of anxiety behind not behind almost every interaction, but there's a lingering sense of anxiety at the thought that I am not impressing them, and it makes me be more romantic towards that person. And if they're not being romantic with you, it's because you gave them the impression that you have been won over. Women will give me more gifts. They'll do more things for me when they get that feeling. You get what I'm saying? Now the issue with me is that I could be a little cold out of nature. You know, like I really don't do this intentionally. Seriously, I really don't. Stop looking at me like that. Right? But when I notice when it's done to me and when I do it to other people unconsciously, this is just the reaction you get out of them. People end up falling in love with you quicker. Like, this person will fall in love with you, but this process will accelerate the process of falling in love. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. This 100% works, because this even works when you're negotiating, man. This works in every type of negotiation, and you're always negotiating when it comes to love. All right? Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys want to work with me one-on-one, go to myfoottraction.org, or else I'm closing the channel.